Good evening. Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Patrice Frederick. I'm the Assistant Principal of Student Services. And before everyone on the screen introduces themselves, I just want to say, we appreciate you taking time out of your night to join us for our course selection presentation. We know that this process can be kind of overwhelming for both students and parents. So we're hoping to provide you with some information and resources to help you along the way. Just to let you know, this presentation is being recorded and we will post it to our website, so you do not have to take notes throughout the whole presentation. With that being said, I'm going to move on to introductions, and I will pass this over to Ms. Bacigalupo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Bacigalupo. I'm a current senior counselor. Next year, I will be a sophomore counselor. Last name's A through LE. And I will introduce my co-counselor, Miss Sarah Sadler.
Hi, everybody. I'm Miss Sadler, currently a senior counselor as well, LF through Z. And then next year, I will be class of 2027 sophomore counselor, LF through Z.
Hi, I'm Amy Buchanan. I am currently a sophomore counselor for the class of 2026, A through LE.
And hi, I'm Gary Myers. I am a junior counselor this year, senior counselor for next year, class of 2025. I handle alphabet A through LE. And Ms. Flores, the other junior counselor, is LF through Z plus anyone who is ML.
Right, and I'm Curtis Menke, the college and career counselor. Again, as Ms. Frederick said, we're so glad that you're joining us tonight. One little housekeeping note, as you can see from the scroll on the bottom of the screen for our live viewers, those of you who are with us right now, the evening of Thursday, November 30th, we can accept and welcome questions that you can enter right there in the comment section in YouTube, the platform you're watching this on. So at the end of the presentation, we will go back over those questions. Feel free to enter them at any time. Again, right there in the comment section in YouTube, we can see those and we will respond to them at the end of the presentation. That's one of the advantages of doing this live stream, is that we're right there with you in real time. If you're watching the recorded version of it, again, we're unfortunately, you can't ask us the live questions. However, we are so grateful, for your participation and your partnership as well. I'm going to take a moment and peel my coworkers, my colleagues off screen here before we move on in the presentation. Going ahead, here is our agenda. This mirrors the second to last slide in the presentation. So this is the order we're going to go on. We're going to start with resources and just kind of factors to consider as students and families approach course selection. And then we'll get to reviewing those core courses that for most students will be English, math, science, social science, the courses that students are placed into in those core areas. We'll also talk about level change requesting and things like that. Then we'll get to electives and alternates. Those are backup classes, which are also in Skyward, that program that we use to house the course selection entries that our students make, as well as those core placements. And then finally, we'll get to deadlines, timelines, and we'll end on a recap just to make sure that we kind of end back where we start. This is a slide that elicits chuckles from students because they know as well as I do, it's literally in every presentation that I do. This slide really kind of represents the whole purpose of my job, which is to help students explore and eventually take action on some kind of next step beyond McHenry High School. I have one goal for every one of our students, and that goal is to get educated or trained in something after they graduate. And the 4 categories on the screen represent the main ways that those somethings happen to be: military service, workforce training, which are careers that do not require 4 years of college, starting at a 4-year college or university, and then starting locally at MCC and then transferring. Those tend to be the 4 main ways that our students can take those next step actions beyond our walls. And we bring this up here just as a reminder that one of the reasons why elective classes exist is to explore those potential classes and kind of get a feel for the kinds of things that a student might enjoy, might be skilled at, might be passionate about. This slide right here kind of captures some of those ways that we hope students approach course selection. first and foremost, we got to make sure we're checking the boxes for graduation. We'll get into that topic here in a couple of slides as well in more detail. And that's also why you have your assigned counselor as well, is to help make sure that we're on track to keep up with those specific graduation requirements. We hope that students will consider classes that might align with career areas of interest. If there is certain college or training preparation that they want to consider, certainly interests and passions. If a student is gung-ho about choir or music or art, I hope that they remain gung-ho about those things and they keep fueling those passions, those areas that keep bringing them up, waking them up in the morning and getting them here with us every day, as well as just being mindful of time and balance. That's the trickiest part to course selection. We're deciding on things that aren't going to happen in reality for about 7 or 8 months. So we're trying to forecast and project what life will be like both in and out of school for your student and how we find that right balance with these courses. We hope students avoid picking classes based on what their peers are thinking, who they think may or may not be teaching things. Of course, just simply filling a spot. On the right side of the screen, we have the primary resources. There is a web page there. Once I'm done with my portion of the speaking part of this presentation, I'll post the link to this presentation in the comment section there in YouTube so our live viewers can see it. And again, for everyone else, it is on the district website. We also have that link to our course guide, which has those descriptions of everything we offer, even towards the back of this the course guide as well. It breaks up the different electives we offer by career cluster. So for instance, if your student is thinking about careers in manufacturing, you can take a look at that section and see what courses we have that align with that. Or if your student is really, really interested in human services, they can take a look at that and see what kind of classes we have that align. And then finally, this is kind of my little slogan during course selection, and that's pick with purpose. There should be a reason for every class that ultimately appears in those course selections. A couple of slides here just about some of the things we offer at McHenry High School. For many of you, this will be kind of a reminder, but we have 20 different, we call them course pathways. These are our course areas we offer that have multiple courses. So for instance, looking at choir, someone could potentially spend 8 semesters in choir. Or in graphic design, someone could potentially spend 7 of their 8 semesters in high school in a graphic communication and design class, if that's what fuels their passion or that's what they're really interested in. So we urge students, especially our current freshmen and current sophomores, to take a look at these. You certainly don't have to have 1 or 2 of these decided, but if you do find yourself leaning into 1 or more of these, we certainly would urge you to continue with that track over the next year or 2. The screen right here has some new courses for the 24-25 school year. I am thrilled to share that we are continuing to expand our dual credit opportunities alongside our already robust advanced placement programs. We'll get into what college credit in high school can look like in a little more detail here in a moment. But again, this is everything that's new for next year. The biggest one at the top that will probably, from a numbers perspective, impact the most students is now we're going to have an honors dual credit U.S. history class that can be taken at the junior level. So there's actually 4 different U.S. history classes that those rising juniors, so the current sophomores, can consider. We'll get into, in a couple of slides here, we'll also kind of get into a little more detail about the similarities and differences between dual credit classes and advanced placement classes. That's kind of a hot topic right now amongst a lot of our students. We've got a new acting class, which continues to grow our theater pathway. Our PE department is making some adjustments as well. We have so many students who are interested in fitness and strength training that they've adjusted their coursework and course offerings to make sure that we can maximize the amount of students who really care about their personal fitness and wellness and give them the opportunity to do that. We have a couple new dual credit math classes, which again is just so exciting that we're giving our students and families an opportunity to knock some of these things out in high school at a fraction of the cost that you might be paying in a couple of years. We've got a new capstone math class, honors dual credit calculus and analytic geometry for those that are aiming high in math. Our biomedical pathway, we're adding a 4th level in that alongside, we're bringing back our basic nursing assistant program in-house. So again, great things going on. And we even have a new capstone computer science class. So great things happening in a lot of our pathways. This slide and the next couple kind of capture ways that students can earn college credit in high school. Again, we're not projecting that every student can or should be looking at college, and ultimately we want students to get trained or educated, whatever is the right fit for them beyond these walls. But for those who are considering college, there's a couple of ways that they can knock some things out in high school. This is the one that kind of flies under the radar. In Illinois, there is a state level program called the Seal of Biliteracy. So essentially, if by the time a student graduates from high school, they can demonstrate fluency and literacy in 2 languages, one of which is usually includes English, then they can actually earn college credit that will for sure be granted at any public institution in Illinois. There's 12 four-year public universities, as well as any community college, such as our in-district community college, MCC. Some other private schools in Illinois will honor it, some out-of-state schools. But for students who are going for this, we always urge them to include at least 1 or 2 of those public schools in Illinois to make sure that they will get that credit that they've worked so hard for. Another way, this is kind of the established way at McHenry High School that our students can look at ways to earn some college credit. We will continue to have a strong slate of advanced placement courses. So essentially, a student takes one of these classes. They sign up to take the advanced placement exam for that test, which they typically take in May. And depending on how they perform on that and where they end up going, that could translate into college credit. Just as one quick reminder with advanced placement, the state of Illinois, kind of similar to the Seal of Biliteracy, it is state law that public institutions, public colleges and universities in Illinois must give credit for advanced placement exam scores of at least a 3. For those unfamiliar with the scoring scale, it's AP exams, a very simple scoring scale. It's 1 through 5, with 5 being the best. So if a student scores at least a 3, those public universities and colleges in Illinois must give credit, which is another reason why I like to see students include 1, maybe 2 of those public schools in Illinois, just because odds are you'll get the most bang for your buck if you're looking at Seal of Biliteracy and or AP. And then finally, again, the area that I'm thrilled about are ever-growing dual credit course offerings. I won't list them all off here. Again, you could take a look in your own time. They're all listed in the course guide as well. All the ones on the left side are taught here at McHenry High School. They're $25 each. The bill comes from MCC. However, the bill is $0 for families that qualify for free and reduced lunch. That number is 37% of our families qualify for that. That credit is earned through MCC, but it is transferable to the vast, vast, vast majority of 2- and 4-year colleges and universities nationwide. Over on the right side, dual enrollment, we partner with MCC for a couple other courses or course programs that are taught at MCC by their staff. It's called dual enrollment. We have one partnership for fire science and EMT and another for criminal justice. And those are taught at MCC. And because it's taught by their staff, families do have to pay MCC's full tuition. In a couple of slides, I'll give a little more information on what that's like here. The one at the bottom right, again, this is another one that kind of flies under the radar. We have a couple areas where called articulated credit, where if a student takes one of the classes listed there and then they go to MCC for that area, in particular autos and preschool, then that's MCC will actually take away a class that they got to do there. So if one of our students completes preschool lab and then goes to MCC for early childhood education, that's one less class that our students have to take and pay for over at MCC. So kind of going back to that dual enrollment program, for our students who are considering fire science, EMT, and criminal justice, we encourage you to come to the upper campus. And this is just for current sophomores and juniors. But on this coming Monday, December 4th during AIM, come to the College and Career Center, and I'll give them a little more information about what these programs are, what the coursework is, what the cost is, so that they can take that home and talk it over with you at home. All right, this slide in particular is a very, very hot topic with a lot of our students, especially those current sophomores with that new dual credit U.S. history class that's in there. So there's kind of 2 parts to this slide here. We're looking at, what's the differences and similarities between AP and dual credit courses from a college credit, from an outcome perspective. So McHenry High School, we consider the majority, and there's one exception I'll get to in a second, but the majority of our advanced placement and dual credit courses to be equally rigorous. And I got a couple examples on the screen. So for instance, we consider AP U.S. history and the new dual credit U.S. history to be of equal rigor. There's not an advantage one way or the other. They are equally rigorous courses that are recognized by the vast majority of colleges as being equally rigorous. Another example is for the current juniors also known as our rising seniors. And in English, we have the advanced placement literature course. We consider that to be of equal rigor to the dual credit college composition classes. There is one exception, which I've noted on the screen, and that's our advanced placement statistics course is more rigorous than dual credit. Essentially, the advanced placement statistics is kind of considered to be a 200 level college coursework, whereas the dual credit statistics is considered to be 100 level. So again, certainly talk with your math teachers if you're looking at a statistics course, you current juniors, about which one might be the right fit for you. At the bottom of the screen, this gets into a lot of the buzz we've been hearing lately. You know, do colleges look at dual credit better or worse than AP? The reality is, folks, there are well over 2,000 four-year colleges and universities nationwide. And of those well over 2,000 schools, there are about 50 of them. And those 50 we consider to be the most selective schools. In other words, those are the colleges and universities that will accept less than 20% of the applicants. In more real terms, they're the picky ones. They're the ones that people, strong candidates get denied from on a regular occasion. Those 50 or so schools will look at AP courses to be more rigorous or of more value in the application process than dual credit. I gave some examples on the screen there. There's a couple local ones, Northwestern University over in Evanston, the University of Chicago, down there in the Hyde Park area. Those are two schools that are examples of schools that will look at AP more favorably than dual credit. But again, that's 50 schools out of over 2,000 nationwide. So we encourage you, if you have further questions on that topic, please direct them, to your counselor and/or myself, and we can make sure that we're looking at classes the way that best suits your student. Briefly, we always want to include this in course selection. Our student athletes, particularly those that are looking to compete at the Division I or II level, the NCAA is the organization that governs college athletics. We want to make sure that students who are looking at those competitive levels are eligible upon graduating from us and matriculating into those schools and those athletic programs. We have to play by the NCAA's rules, and they have very specific courses that are approved that we have to make sure that our students take. So again, if your student is considering Division I or II athletics, if they're blessed with that talent and that passion, make sure that they let their counselor know that they're looking at that level of competition for college athletics so we can make sure that they meet those eligibility requirements. All right, colleges and fine arts. Again, just another relatively brief one here before I pass things over to Mrs. Frederick here in the next slide. It is a myth that to go to college, you must take world language. And we mention that not because we're trying to discourage anyone from taking world language. Obviously, there's a great benefit to being bilingual. However, we want to dispel that myth that all colleges require world language. Some four-year colleges will require 2 years of a world language and or 2 years of fine arts. We have some examples on the screen of some colleges that do require them. In Illinois, of all the public, or at the top of the screen, I should say, all the California schools, Ohio State, Kentucky, they require some kind of fine arts credit in high school. As far as world language goes, there's not as many that require 2 years of language as you'd think. We always strongly encourage you, if your student does have any schools in mind, check with the undergraduate admissions pages of those websites. If you're not sure how to find that, reach out to me. I'll help you take a look so we can make sure that if your student does have a school or two in mind, that they're, again, checking the right boxes in high school, taking the right classes to be an eligible candidate for admission there. All right, Ms. Frederick, I'm going to pull you back on screen as I transition here to the next slide. There we go. All right, Ms. Frederick, hear about placement courses that students were placed into.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So today, all our current students should have been able to log into Skyward and view courses that they were placed into. And so just to explain this a little bit, students have English, math, science, social science, and PE courses that were placed into their Skyward, and they are not able to change those on their own. These classes, just so you have a better understanding, are placed by looking at several different data points. So our district looks at standardized test scores, grades from previous classes, and then grades from current classes to try to make the determination of what courses are going to most appropriately challenge our students. So it's obviously a very tricky thing to do because we don't want students to be in over their head, but we also want them to be challenged. We want them to be growing every single year. So that is how their core classes are picked, and that is how they were selected and put into Skyward. PE classes that you see in Skyward, those were picked based off of conversations that the students had with their current PE teachers. So they went over the course offerings and the different options we have in our PE department. And then based off of that, the PE teachers put in the classes into Skyward. So with that being said, yes, the courses are locked into Skyward and students cannot change them on their own, but we do have a level change request process that I'm going to talk about in detail in the next slide. So I'll come back to that, but I do want to make note for our current juniors. So this is for our current juniors only. If you have passed all of your math and science courses up until this point, and by the end of this year, meaning you will end your junior year with 3 years of math and 3 years of science, you technically have fulfilled that graduation requirement. You will see a math and science class in your Skyward. That does not mean that you must take a 4th year math and science. If you do not want to take a 4th year math or science, what we recommend is that you have a conversation with your counselor, and it can be removed. We just want to make sure that you are making an informed decision, because for some students, the path after high school will be better. You'll be better prepared if you take the 4th year math or science, but not for all students. So we just, again, want to make sure you're making an informed decision. So make sure to have that conversation with your counselor. Moving on to the level change process that I just briefly mentioned. This process is for parents to have with their students. If you go into Skyward and you see that your core placement courses, your English, math, science, and social science, if you feel one of those classes or multiple of the classes are not appropriate for your student, then that is where we ask that parents fill out a level change request form. This is an electronic form that is on our course selection website. And it basically is going to ask parents, what class was your student recommended to take? What class do you feel is the better fit and why? What we ask is share as much information as you feel comfortable sharing. It helps us make an informed decision to either approve or deny the request. The requests go to our divisionals, and they are the administrators over the core content areas. So they will then follow up with parents and students about the request. If you have questions, you're just unsure, you don't know what is the best fit for your student, feel free to reach out and ask the counselor or the divisionals. The divisionals are going to know the content in the curriculum and be able to help you throughout making that decision. If you look on the right, our divisionals are listed for each department. And one thing I do want to point out, level change request forms are due by December 19th. So please make sure that forms are submitted prior to that. Lastly, I am going to be talking about the Illinois Accelerated Placement Act. This is a new act that Illinois put in place this year. And I briefly want to go over it. I'm not going to spend too much time. Parents all should have received an email this week from our Assistant Superintendent, Carl Valianatos, that gave some information along with a video about the Accelerated Placement Act. Essentially, Illinois put this law in place saying that for students who meet or exceed on the standardized test, so for us, that will be students taking the PSAT, the SAT, and the juniors take the Illinois Science Assessment. So for any students that meet or exceed on those benchmarks, they automatically must be placed into the next most rigorous course, whether that be an honors class, an advanced placement, or dual credit. Now, before we hit the panic button, I do not want any students or parents to be overly stressed by this because McHenry High School has been using a data-driven placement process for the past few years. We already look at standardized test scores to help us make our decisions. This is not new. The newest part to this is that schools must do this. And really, the reasoning for this is to make sure all students in the state of Illinois are given equal opportunity to advanced courses. So to ensure that certain populations, whether that be due to gender, due to race, due to socioeconomic status, whatever those reasons might be, that those students are not, that they are given the same opportunities and that they are given the opportunities to excel in coursework. So we do have, like Mr. Mankey mentioned, we have wonderful opportunities, 19 AP courses, 24 dual credit. And so our students have a great opportunity to earn college credit while at McHenry High School. And the studies have shown that the students that earn early college credit, so while in high school, they are more likely to attend college and be successful. Again, we know that college is not for everyone, but if that is for your student, that is wonderful. And level change forms are available. So ultimately, if you are placed into that AP honors or dual credit class, and as a parent, you feel that's not a good fit for your student, please submit a level change request form. All right, I am now going to pass it over, I believe, to Ms. Bacigalupo.
You are correct. Hi, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and review our graduation requirements. So to graduate from McHenry High School in 4 years, all students have to complete the following courses: 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 2.5 years of social science, a semester of health, 3.5 years of PE, driver's education, the classroom portion, a semester of consumer education, and 7 elective credits. When you add all those up, that equates to 24 credits total. Now, to remain on track to graduate in 4 years, all students have to obtain a minimum of 6 credits per year. So what that means is if your student fails a required class for graduation, they have to remediate that course the next summer school. If your student does not register for summer school, they have to retake that same class the next school year. That could jeopardize their ability to graduate in 4 years. Here are the sophomore course requirements. So all sophomores will be enrolled in the following: 1 year of English, 1 year of math, 1 year of science. The sophomore science is chemistry. A semester of world history. The semester class is revolutions. AP world history is a year-long class. A semester of PE, a semester of health, and then driver's education. That class is available by birthday. So the oldest students get first dibs on seats. If you want your student to be enrolled in driver's ed, please have them come have a conversation with their counselor. We can check and make sure they're eligible to take that class. Now, driver's education, health, and revolutions are all available over summer school as well if your student would like to take that class ahead of time to add another elective to their next school year. This is what the course count looks like in Skyward. So when you log in, you'll see the placed courses that Mrs. Frederick just described. So you'll see 2 semesters worth of English, 2 semesters worth of math, 2 semesters worth of chemistry, either a semester of revolutions or the year-long AP World History class, a semester of PE, a semester of health, 2 semesters of lunch, and then students get 4 spots for electives. So that could be 2 year-long electives, 4 semester-long electives. If they want to take a study hall, it'll take the place of an elective. Again, if your student decides to take revolutions or health over summer, they will be able to add another elective in place of those classes. Another important thing to note is that your student should also add at least 4 alternate or backup elective classes. The reason being, sometimes classes either fill up very quickly or it doesn't work with your student's schedule. We want to make sure if that's the case, we can look in the alternates and choose another elective that your student is interested in taking versus us randomly picking a class. Next, I'm going to have Mrs. Buchanan.
Hey, Miss Buchanan, your microphone is muted.
Oh,
There you
sorry.
go.
Okay,
No,
I'll
take
start
2.
Okay, sorry everyone. As far as junior course requirements, you are required to take 1 year of English, 1 year of math, a year of science, a year of United States history, and then 1 year of PE. Like Ms. Bacigalupo had said, as far as driver's ed, we start with the oldest students and call them in to make sure they haven't taken driver's ed privately before we start assigning them to driver's ed. There is the availability of driver's ed in the summer, which is a popular option. So we do have that. If there is a student that takes their driver's ed class over the summer, or I should say privately, if they could please let their counselor know so we can take them off the list for scheduling. As far as the junior course count, there should be 14 courses in Skyward. They will already have an English, a math, a science, a US history, and a PE. If they decided to have a 0-hour PE, then they would get an additional elective in there. If they are taking PE during the day, they would get 4 semester-long electives or up to 2 credits of electives, whether it's year-long classes or semester-long classes. And if they have taken the 0-hour PE, they would get an additional half to 1 credit of classes of electives to add to their schedule. Like Ms. Bacigalupo had said, we really appreciate at least 4 alternate or backup courses in case something doesn't fit into a student's schedule, so we can look at their alternate courses. So we want to make sure that they would be willing to take those classes when they're picking them, because we may have to use them. Next, I will turn it over to Mr. Myers to talk about seniors.
Hi, everyone. Similar slide to the sophomore and junior course requirements, but a little bit limited. Senior year is more of the fun year where they can take more electives. So senior year, they will be required to take 1 full year of English. The only exception to that would be if students have taken an English elective prior to senior year. So you can see some of the additional English electives listed down below. If your student took that as a freshman, sophomore, or junior this year, honestly, they only have to take a semester of English if they wish to for graduation purposes. Most of our students still take a year. They will take a year of physical education. Consumer ed, that's only a semester. However, we do have some students that are currently taking independent living as a junior. That independent living, as long as they pass both semesters, that satisfies the consumer requirement, so they do not have to take consumer ed senior year. We do offer consumer ed over the summer. So that is a course that many of our sending senior or juniors ascending up to senior year will opt to do because they have a full schedule and just can't seem to fit Consumer Ed in there. And so Consumer Ed over the summer is perfectly acceptable. We also have a digital version of Consumer Ed, which is basically doing the class online at their own pace. There are some requirements with that where you do need to have a 3.5 GPA or higher to receive admission into that. Government, similar to Consumer Ed, can be taken over the summer. There's the AP government option, which is a year long, and there's the government option, which is semester. Just like consumer, we have many students that will take government in summer school just to make room in their schedule senior year for classes that they want to take that are electives that they have yet to be able to experience prior to senior year. Driver's Ed, we also look to make sure that all of our seniors have completed before graduation, at least the classroom portion of Driver's Ed. Ms. Flores and myself have been in contact with your students numerous times, sending out emails, having them come in to check on their Driver's Ed status. But again, if your student has not taken Driver's Ed yet and is not planning to take it over summer or taking it privately, the students really need to see Ms. Flores or myself to make sure we can place them in Driver's Ed for next year. We've pretty much talked to all of them though. Okay, the next slide. This is the senior course count, and I kind of went through this already with the requirements. This could be what your next year senior schedule could look like. The English, the consumer, government, PE's there, lunch obviously, and then you can see the rest is electives down below. So again, this is what many people call the fun year, which is great. But just like the previous counselors have spoken about, we do ask when they pick their courses to put 4 electives in there, just in case there's a schedule conflict where 2 electives they want to teach are taught at the same period, and that's the only period they're taught. So that does happen. So we want to make sure that they do put the alternatives in there. Graduating in December. We have several students every year when they are in their senior year, they wish to graduate a semester early, and that is an option in District 156. Before the start of senior year, one big requirement is that the student must have earned 20 credits before senior year. So many students have come to us already talking about this. If your student is interested or you're interested in this, please have the student come talk with their counselor. It might mean that they may have to take a class in summer school or 2 in summer school to meet that 20 requirement. And then we would make sure that they get all the requirements for the state of Illinois and for the District 156 in for that first semester. Graduating December means that they're done taking classes with us in December. They do get to walk in the May ceremony if they wish to. They can come to all extracurricular events. The only thing they cannot do is participate in co-curricular events after December because they are no longer taking classes with us. So please have your student see us if you have questions about December grad, they have a question about December grad, or email Ms. Flores or myself, okay? And the summer school options. With summer school, the registration will open in January. There will be links and information on the district website. Again, summer school is used for many reasons, and one big one is credit recovery. You may have a student who did not pass required math, science, English, and they can recover that failed course during summer school. So we encourage all students that fall into that to do so. And if you have questions about that, please reach out to your counselor and we can contact you via the phone or answer your questions via email. Driver's Ed fills up quickly and is the most popular summer school class. So please sign up as soon as possible in January. It does help secure a spot for you. Doesn't guarantee it, but it helps. There are some get ahead classes that we have listed down here below, and these cover many different grade levels. Consumer Ed and Government, if your student is a current sophomore or a current junior, they can take those classes over the summer if you wish to get ahead. I have many current juniors that have already taken Consumer and Government because they did it between their sophomore and junior year. Health is also a requirement within the sophomore year, but if you'd like to have your student take it prior to their freshman year or prior to their sophomore year, you could sign them up for that as well. And the same holds true for revolutions throughout history. You could do that before your sophomore year. So that would be after your freshman year. You can do that before sophomore. And Issue of the 21st Century, if you are a parent of a current 8th grader and you would like to get that elective or that requirement, off the books to open up room in your student schedule, you can contact counselors at the freshman campus if you wish to. Send them emails, but certainly a course that you can opt into over the summer. Okay, and I'm turning it over to Ms. Sadler next.
Okay, so now we're going to show you some steps on how you can get started. So looking at the screen, you see a click here button, which when you click on that, it'll bring you to the Skyward icon. You'll enter your student ID as your username. Then students will be directed to create a password. So make sure you create a password you're going to remember because you're going to need this for your course selection. Log into your student account. Parents can log into their accounts, but they can't make any changes to student requests. So only students have that access. There is a video linked right here of how to do course selection. So if you're watching right now, feel free to just watch this video after this presentation and watch the video at your own pace. Students must enter and submit courses by December 5th. Students will meet with their counselor one-to-one between the dates of 12/6 to 12/19 to finalize their selections and to ask remaining questions. So that's why it's important for students to have these submitted before their one-to-one meeting with their counselor, just so that they can have a productive meeting and that everything can be submitted and finalized. Okay. All right, so these are just screenshots, which are also shown on the video in the prior slide. But when you log into Skyward, you're going to see these tiles. So you're going to click on the tile that says Course Requests at Upper Campus. When you click on that, you'll see your list of your requests. So those requests are your core courses. Those are already locked in there. Those are your placements. Those cannot be changed without like a level change form and a discussion with your counselor. But what you can add are your electives. So the next slide will show you screenshots of how to do that. So when you look at the available courses for the school year coming up, it's going to show you all of the classes available. When you want to add an elective, you can do it by filtering and typing in the course. Also, once you click it, make sure that you're clicking both semesters. So you look at this example, one of the electives is accounting. If you're going to take accounting, you'll take it for the full year. So you'll click both of the accounting buttons. And then once you have enough electives clicked, you will have to press submit. If you don't press submit, nothing gets saved. And then once the student meets with the counselor, it's empty. And then they have to kind of start over. So do make sure you put in the amount of electives you need per your grade level, and then the 4 backups. Okay. And then I believe our next slide is back to Mr. Mankey.
Yep, back to me. Thank you, Miss Sadler. So this is our summary slide. This kind of captures in just a couple little bite-sized chunks the main points and actions from the course selection process. Again, we're kind of ending where we started here. So in the top left, we have, those couple of main resources to consider, particularly the course guide, as well as the website, and of course the people involved, teachers, counselors, parents, guardians. Then again, below that, you will review those core courses in Skyward. Make sure that the courses you were placed into are the ones that you believe are appropriate. And if not, again, that's where that level change request form comes in. Moving to the box in the upper right, while you're there in Skyward, you'll go ahead and enter in those the electives that you know for sure you want, as well as at least 4 or so of those alternate, aka backup electives. Again, we just want to make sure that if we have to go to a Plan B class, we've got something there that your student is interested in and would still be okay with taking. And then below that in the bottom right, we have the couple of main deadlines here. Again, we need all of those elective courses entered in Skyward and submitted in Skyward by this Tuesday, December 5th. That level change request form will be due, and again, it's an online form, will be due there by December 19th. And then also between the 6th and 19th, your students will still meet one-on-one with their assigned counselor. We expect students to still have lingering questions. That's okay. I've already had a couple of students pull me aside today, like, well, what if I don't want that class or that place course? I still got a question about this. That's okay. That's okay. Just enter the things in Skyward that you know for sure you want to do. And it's all right to still bring those lingering questions with when you meet with your assigned counselor there after Tuesday next week. All right, so my fellow colleagues, I'm going to pull you back on screen here. And I'm going to remind our live viewers that you can submit questions right there in YouTube. Again, that's the platform that you are watching on from your end of things. There's that comment box in YouTube, just like whenever you watch any video in YouTube. And you can enter those questions directly in that comment box. And now is the time where we will respond to those in real time. We already had one submitted. So we're going to go to a question that Kyle submitted. And that question is, how much is the tuition and fees for those dual enrollment classes, those fire science and criminal justice classes? I'll go ahead and take that one because with it being the dual enrollment, that one's kind of right up my alley. So for those particular sets of courses, the fire science, EMT, and criminal justice, again, those are taught by MCC's faculty at MCC. So you do have to pay the full tuition. So I will say you're not necessarily saving money when you do that, but because you're knocking them out in high school, you are potentially saving time. From the college credit perspective, both of those programs, you're actually earning 10 total college credits. When a student takes that in our schedule, it kind of looks just like one big blob of a class that says MCC Fire Science or MCC Criminal Justice. But in reality, students who do that program are actually taking a series of classes, and it's actually 4 different classes loaded up over the course of that semester. So essentially, if a student takes, let's say, we'll use fire science as an example, in fall of 24, during August and September, they'll take the first class in the sequence. In October, they'll take the second class, November, the third class, and December, the fourth class. So the total cost, again, you are paying MCC's tuition I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it is approximately $1,500. And because it is for transparency, because it's taken during high school, those courses are not financial aid eligible. So that would have to be an out-of-pocket expense. So again, you're not necessarily saving money, but you are saving time by doing those, looking at one of those programs for in high school. We also just had a couple other questions rolled in here. Ms. Frederick, I'm gonna direct this one to you. The question is, what can a student do if a level change request is denied? So what would somebody's options be in that circumstance?
Sure, great question. So first of all, I would say if a level change request was denied, it was done so thoughtfully. So my first thing I would say is for the student to try the course. I mean, I think that sometimes students are a little bit afraid of the challenge. But with that being said, you can always have a conversation, the parent, student, and the divisional, to talk through some of the concerns. And ultimately, as a family, if you are adamant that you would still like to pursue this request, you can appeal and speak with the principal. So there is that option as well.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much for Ms. Frederick and Katie, the viewer who submitted that. Thank you for that question. We know that is arguably the most stressful part of this process. Just being honest with you, it is that level change and making sure that that balance is right. That's such a tricky thing to try to predict, again, 7 or 8 months in advance from when students are actually in the courses. So we really do appreciate that question and honestly recognize, that is a stressor that parents and students are feeling right now. So thank you for that. The next question we have comes from Laura, and the question is, how do you adjust your schedule if you're planning on taking summer school classes? So again, how do we adjust the schedule if you're planning on taking summer school classes? Who would like to jump on that one? Talking to my colleagues.
I can take that one. So awesome question, Laura. The first thing is that when your student meets one-on-one with the counselor, make sure that they have that conversation that your student is interested in taking that summer school course. What we'll do is we'll talk to them about the elective they want to take instead the next year, or study hall, or whatever it is they want to add. And we'll make sure that's in their alternates. Once students are registered for summer school, again, that comes out in January, we'll go ahead and take that course out. So for example, if they want to take health over the summer, health will be taken out, and then that elective or study hall they would rather take would be entered in.
All right, excellent, Ms. Bacigalupo. Again, that's as our summer school offerings have really expanded over the last couple of years. That's happening more and more frequently. The summer school registration will open in January. So again, if you're thinking about taking a class over the summer, just make sure you let your counselor know when you sit down with them in December, and they'll account for that, making sure they get the right amount of classes there at Skyward. We have another question. I so love these questions that are coming in from our live viewers. Again, continue to ask them. That's what we're here for. We got another question that just came in, again, from Kyle, another incredibly relevant question. If my student would like to change from dual credit college composition to AP literature, does that require a level change request? Here's one of those AP dual credit dilemmas we have here. Mr. Myers, as a former English teacher, would you like to take this one?
So Ms. Frederick can back me up to make sure I'm saying the proper thing here, but you're actually leveling up. And so to go from the honors dual credit to AP, Ms. Frederick, are we requiring the level change form this year, correct?
Yeah, and generally stated, this is going to be a little bit trickier because some dual credit classes are honors, some are not. So I'm going to say the simplest answer here and just fill out the level change form, because it's kind of going to be case by case for each dual credit AP class. Honestly, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, if a student is wanting to challenge themselves and go to a higher level course, as long as they meet the prerequisites, it will be approved. But I would just fill out the level change form to be on the safe side.
So I did have an example of that today, actually, and I just got lucky because Ms. Namakudis, the English department chair, was right next to me. She looked at the student and said, absolutely, don't worry about the level change form, but she's not always next to me. So yeah, fill that in. So Kyle, if you happen to know who that one student is and said, I didn't have to fill it in, probably that's what happened with that student.
When in doubt, fill out the form. It's not a complicated form. It's one that shouldn't take you more than a couple moments to complete. So when in doubt, go ahead and fill out that level change form, and just to make sure that it's done. I'll give one more verbal request here for any other questions our live viewers wish to submit here during our live stream. Again, right there in that comment box in YouTube. As I give our live viewers one more opportunity to consider questions, Ms. Buchanan, I'm going to throw a question at you here. And that question is, what is a piece of advice or feedback that you would give to students to consider, kind of as they weigh, what electives might be the right ones for them? What's a piece of advice that you would give?
I would say, especially at the sophomore level, and we're going with the Discover theme, basically just taking classes that are of interest, of possible career interest. I know I've been doing a lot of four-year planning meetings with students, and a lot of them are undecided. So I'm basically talking to them about, well, let's explore all of your interests. You know, let's take a psychology, let's take an art. So I would just say, you know, taking classes of things that you feel you might have some interest in, and then hopefully that will help guide you to the next, you know, to the next area or not.
Yeah, sometimes process of elimination can work. You know, you take a class, and I mean, I guess the worst case scenario is you learn that you don't like it, and that's one less option you have to consider. Sometimes, you know, it's easier to make a choice when you don't have as many options to look at. I know sometimes when I'm working with a very indecisive student about what might be next for them, I'll ask them, what don't you like? And we'll start there and get rid of the things they don't like, and we'll see what's left and kind of make a decision that way. I'm not seeing any other questions. Oh, there we did just have one roll, and literally as I started the wrap up, we had another one drop in here. Miss Frederick, I'm going to direct this one to you as well. The question regards lunch periods and electives. So I'll go ahead and read it for you just to kind of prime you there. Can students drop their lunch period to take an additional elective?
All right, great question. So generally speaking, we do want to see students with some sort of break in their day, we will say. So we auto-populate all students to have a lunch. If for scheduling purposes, the electives that a student wants to take are only offered during lunch periods, we do then ask for a student to take a study hall. Now, keep in mind, students can take a 0-hour PE option to free up an additional time during the day. I will say that we are always looking at this policy because it does come up probably a handful of times every year. We do it to really protect students and their ability to handle everything that they take on these days and their overall well-being. I would say if there's an additional elective, put it in as the alternate option. Mention it to your counselor that you would rather not have a free period in the day. If our policy changes, the counselor can then reach back out to you and your family.
That's ironically, that's one of the downfalls of having so many awesome courses and pathways that we offer, is that sometimes, you know, students have so many interests and passions that they wish to grow that they run out of time in the day. You know, from a wellness perspective, again, speaking for myself, you know, I like to see students with a break in the day. Not that lunch is that, but you know, just to turn your brain off for 45 minutes. I know that, like, in the adult work, you know, in your typical 9-to-5 working world, you know, adults are expected to have a lunch break as well to make sure that people remain productive. Again, very valid question. We see that a lot. I know with students who are in our music programs and our art programs who really try to, you know, squeeze every spot they can, you know, to fuel those passions there.
Sorry, Mr. Mankey, I'm going to jump in. Just another thought I had about that. That's also really where we would suggest utilizing summer school to try to knock out some of those other courses to free up a period in your day. So just wanted to add that.
Mm-hmm. I'll give our live viewers one more chance. Miss Bacigalupo, I'm going to throw that same question at you that I threw at Miss Buchanan a moment ago. So again, for our live viewers, one more opportunity to enter any questions into that comment box. Miss Bacigalupo, what's one piece of feedback or advice you would give our students?
Kind of going off of that with the topic of wellness, making sure you really look at your student's schedule in a holistic lens, not looking at each individual class, but looking at what does their schedule look like? What sports or clubs are they involved in? Do they have a job? Making sure that their course load is manageable, because like Mrs. Frederick said, we want to make sure our students are healthy, productive, doing well in their classes, and just feeling good about their high school experience.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of this. I'm gonna date myself here, Mr. Myers. You can identify with me on this. You know, like as a youth playing with silly putty. You know, you want to stretch it as far as you can, but you don't want to snap it. You know, so that's kind of the approach we want to take with our students. We want to stretch them, but we don't want to get to a point where it becomes unhealthy by any means. I'm not seeing any other questions roll in, so I think we will wrap things up. Again, use those resources. We have the page on the website for course selections. Reach out to us, your students counselor, myself, Ms. Frederick. We're certainly here to help and support. And please know that your students are not on an island as they navigate these seas together. So on behalf of my colleagues, we'll wrap up this presentation. And as always, we ask our students, what are you looking forward to?